Hello. Hey, Nash, don't drive and watch, please. That's not good. Okay, let me just fix this. I have actually a cool message for you guys today. And, well, I was thinking that I joined Periscope, I think less than a week ago. And I started experimenting, right? I decided to see what applications that could have for me, and I never really took the chance to really introduce myself. So I'm going to take about 2 minutes to just introduce myself. Okay. Thank you for joining us, National, again. I hope you're not driving at the same time that you were watching a scope, because that's not healthy, okay? So my name is Shahar Boyayan. I'm a marketer. I specialize in brain-based communication, right? The way we put a choreography together yeah, good for you. When we communicate in any media. It can be, talking, it can be on a website, it can be anywhere. So brain-based communication, also known as neuromarketing. I have a company together with my daughter, who's watching as Nashla, that is called BuzzBooster. And we have been doing this consulting for about 10 years. And we have been online marketers before that since 1998. I wrote a book called Life Would Be Fantastic If My Brain Didn't Boycott Me, where actually we use some of the strategies we learn in our consulting business. Like I said, I run the business with my daughter. We have 2 dogs. One is named Apple and the other one is named Mr. Goji Berry. And we have a cat named Banana. Okay, so we love animals. Now, being a marketer and being a consultant takes a big bulk of our lives, but I also have some hobbies, so I'm going to share some of them with you. Most of them, actually, my daughter also likes a lot. So, for example, wildlife photography. We spend a lot of our free time taking wildlife photography. So pictures like this, we go everywhere. We are in Yellowstone quite often because we love to take pictures from the bears, and I like to do some textures on Photoshop. She's more raw. She likes the picture as it comes. The hobby that we both have is geocaching, which is a treasure hunt that you can go anywhere in the city or in different places and find little treasures that are hidden. It's a very fun activity to do. We've been doing that for quite a few years, I believe. We also like, yeah, it's very, very fun. We also like rock hounding. This is kind of a new hobby for us. We have been out, I think, 3 or 4 times. In fact, this last weekend, we got some wonder rocks or wonder stones here in Utah, and I polished this one to make some jewelry later. So that's also very fun. And I like arts and crafts a lot. I like especially sculpting, and I sculpt in several different media. So one that I like a lot is wool. I actually get wool and I make some sculptures. My themes are always animals. That's what I like the most. So you just get wool and you poke with a special needle until you get to the shape that you want. So this is one of my monkeys, and I love doing that. I also like sculpting thank you. I also like sculpting wax. This is also kind of a new hobby, but the process is carving and then turn them into silver. So this is going to be at some point a necklace, for example, of a kestrel that is an animal. So basically, that's how I spend my free time. But I do like a lot the brain-based communication. Again, because if you don't get that right, it's very, very complicated for you to send the right message. Now here, we are talking about business, right? And marketing a business. So specifically, if you are a solopreneur, entrepreneur, you have a more structured business, is exactly for you. But the same principle you actually can apply to anything, including relationships, right? Because this is brain-based and it's something that you can rely. Let me tell you how I became a neuromarketer. It's really because, like I told you, we started working in 1998 online. And as you know, technology changes by the second, and you're always relearning things and looking at new tools like we are right now with Periscope, right? There's always something coming up. But when it comes for you consulting with clients, you need to be sure that the strategy that you're going to use will work. And you can use any tool, Facebook, Periscope, or whatever it's necessary. But the communication on those tools, they need to be extremely aligned, or else people just don't get attention. And it can be also frustrated when you are a marketer and you always have to be testing new things. So you came to a point that you said, okay, when you look at marketing as a whole, which is a very broad subject, what can you rely really on? And there is one thing that we can rely in, a part of ourselves that has not changed in the last 50,000 years, which is the unconscious part of our brain, the reptilian brain. That brain, we know a bit about it. You know, neuroscience now, it's becoming a very big thing. So more and more studies are being done around the brain. But we know that that brain didn't change much in this last 50,000 years. So when you learn how to talk to that brain, which is also responsible for most of our decision-making process when it comes to buying, 85% of our decisions are made on an unconscious level first. And then we justify with the frontal cortex. So we can rely on that, and that's where we start studying and went deep into that. So for the topic today, positive framing. And again, you can apply this to a conversation one-on-one while giving presentations, on the copy that you use in direct marketing, on the copy that you use on your website, on how you post your posts in social media, in anything actually. So first, let's define what's framing, right? Well, it's very simple. Framing is the way we describe something to somebody. We frame that in a certain way. And no matter how we frame that, that will have a huge impact in behavior, in the behavior that the person will have after we have framed. And why? Because whenever we frame something, we also set some expectations, which is a topic for another time. But it's important for you to see that the way you frame something will impact other people's behavior, right? Now, the way you present your information is critical to the user's acceptance or not of what you're doing. So we basically have two types of that we could frame, on a positive way and on a negative way. Now, research shows that people do prefer the positive framing. Not only people, there was actually a study done with monkeys that also proved that monkeys giving the options are exactly the same, but one is presented on a positive matter and the other one on a negative matter, they will always choose the positive one. So there was another study done with a treatment. It was actually done in a hospital. And the approach was this. The doctors would approach a group of patients with a positive framing. So for example, the treatment A would say, saves 200 lives. Okay, so, and the negative one would say, okay, 400 people will die. What they were really saying on the positive one is there is a 33% chance of saving all 600 people in this study, and a possibility, at a 66, sorry, I messed that up. There is a 33 chance of saving all 600 people, which is a 66% possibility of saving no one. On the negative one would be a 33 chance that people will die, which is a 66 probability that all 600 will live. When you look at both, they sound confusing, but when you look at both of them, they are actually saying the same thing, but just one in a positive way, the other one in a negative way. And guess what? 3 times. Positive framing was 3 times more persuasive than negative. So trying to approach from a positive way was 3 times more positive, right? Because of course, 72% of the subject, the people, they did choose the first treatment because it was more positive, okay? So if you do any marketing, you also know that it's normal for you to see out there the negative framing, especially when it comes with fear, right? So for example, you see legal professionals saying everybody will have their identity stolen, and if you don't act right now, you're going to lose. Do you know how much it costs if you break this device? All this kind of fear-based. Why? Because fear also sells. The fear of losing especially also sells. We as humans, we are all afraid of losses. Right? So we pay attention to that every time it gets stated. Now, you have to take some things into consideration. This is true, but it tends to work a lot more with younger people, millennials. The reason behind that is because, of course, they are younger, they have less life experiences, so they get scared easily. Right? When you're talking to Gen Xers, yes, they're now 50, and baby boomers, it's a different situation because, of course, we have lived a lot longer, so we went to ups and downs a lot more. So the fear of loss, it's not as big as it is with a younger person. So we have to take that into consideration when we decide to use the fear of loss or the fear in itself. Okay, negative reinforcement is always based on fear, and it is powerful, like I said, but you will always take this as a very, how do you say that? I just forgot. Very high pressure, right? A lot of people, they let me just put something here so I don't forget what I'm going to say next. But high pressure type of sale that say, okay, it's like the car salesman that doesn't leave me alone because I'm going to miss this opportunity, I'm going to miss that. So what eventually happens is that this tend to work once or twice, but then it stops working if you're talking to the same subject, to the same person. Now, the positive framing is actually a positive reinforcement, right? And it's based on encouraging somebody to take action. So it may take a little longer for the person to act because you're not coming with a scarcity mindset in that case, but once the relationship is built, it becomes loyal. And I don't know about you, but I rather have one loyal customer than 10 customers that will buy from me just once. Because what makes a business healthy is continuity, right? So we need to create that relationship based on trust to be able to survive as businesses, right? Or else it becomes crazy because you're always on the prospecting mode, going after and after and after. So how do you kind of use both things to your benefit? So let's think about this. When you're talking about risks, right? The risks are not doing what you're telling them. Well, then you talk about in negative terms. So if you talk about alternative health, you may choose to talk about traditional health, the state of our healthcare, some scary numbers out there, and you paint that as the villain. So that has a negative framing around it, okay? But then when you present your solution to a problem, that comes in a very positive framing. So that's one way to balance and still use two things that do work, right? I never said that the negative doesn't work. But you paint, okay, always think about this, the villain and the hero. And you, your product, your service, you're the hero. So you always come in a positive life. You're saving lives, right? When you're talking about the other side, then in a negative framing. Yes, you can do that. But again, many times it's just the way you word things. And when you have that choice, you do want to word in a positive way. So I'm going to give you an example. For example, for websites, if you have a website or a blog. And it's just two quick examples of what has been done. So I can have a site, for example, that is selling something, right? So there is a checkout process, okay? I may tell people to register now in order to be able to make the sale. And that's important for many, many reasons, right? But I can say, let's suppose that the person tries not to register and still go to the cart. What's the message that will come up? So one option, for example, is you cannot get your product because you're not a registered user. Right? To the point. But you may say you may get this product right after you register. You see, one is the approach of negative framing. You cannot do this because you didn't do that. And the other is, hey, you can do this. You just need to do this extra thing here. Very simple, and it's one line, but it actually, the first one decreases more than 30% the chance of people leaving that shopping cart. And if you sell anything online, you probably heard that 60% of sales are lost in the last step in the shopping cart. So this type of thing really matter a lot. Another one is when another example from the same situation is that the website had the register button in place, right? But they also put one that is just said continue. And when the person click on that, it would show on a pop-up box, you do not need to create an account to make purchase on this site. Simply click continue to proceed to checkout. To make future purchases even faster, you can create an account during checkout. And guess what happened? Most people would create the account before the checkout. So why? Because not only they didn't have the register, you have to do what I ask you to, but it became a message with more empathy, which is much more aligned with people and creates the positive mindset in that environment. So as you can see, it doesn't matter if it's face-to-face, and it doesn't matter if it's on a website, if it's written copy or spoken copy. The way you choreograph your message matters a lot to people and will make them either take the action that you're looking for or not. Right? So I for example, we give some classes and we come to the end when we do the call to action, when you tell people what you want them to do next, and you should always do that. And we say it's a very simple decision. You either continue using the healthcare that you have been used for, or you opt for a more alternative solution that, and then we paint the picture, will make your life better, you're going to live longer, whatever is the promise, right? On a positive framing. So as you see, it's not difficult. It's not difficult. The concept sometimes takes some thinking, right? But you have to exercise this. So when you see yourself in either in selling mode or trying to convince somebody, trying to take the husband to the movies on a date that he doesn't, he doesn't care about that, pay attention on how you're wording that. And pay attention if you're not framing on a negative way instead of a positive way. Sometimes just saying, I know this is Thursday and it's not the usual day we go to the movies, but guess what? You love Meryl Streep. You're going to let the stress from your work out. We can have a nice dinner. It's going to be a fantastic day. Yes, wordsmithing. That's so right. You craft that instead of going with something negative. You're so grumpy. You're just going to be grumpier if you don't go, right? You're saying the same thing, positive frame, negative frame. So you can use, it is pure ed, it is positive language, but it's a structure to achieve the outcome that you're looking for when you're selling, when you're trying to convince somebody, when you're writing copy for a website. And that's the whole thing, because again, like I said, there are many studies out there that have proven that given the chance and the same offer, people will choose the positive one. And I mentioned about the monkeys. The study was actually they would get 2 pieces of fruit and a bonus with peanuts, right? And the positive one, they would get the 2 pieces of fruits and the positive peanuts. And most of the time, sometimes, yes, you can be using customer service for sure. And you know what I would love? Give me some examples, because I gave 4 or 5. I would love to put more in different scenarios. So please go ahead. But then they would get that. And the negative one, they would sometimes get the 2 fruits. Sometimes they would get just 1. But because of the bonus, they would always choose. So at the they would always get whatever they were offered. So at the end of the study, both groups actually had the same. Right? But given the chance, they would always opt for the positive one other than the negative. So what this tells you is that even monkeys will want more of the positive framing when you're giving them things than the negative. And like pure I think Pure Red said, you can use this in customer service, right? Especially in very stressful situations when a device is broken, when the person is complaining about something. The worst thing you can ever do is either disagree with them and start showing the bad side of what's going to happen. So she's saying here, never use words like I can't, I don't know, etc. Yes. Yes, be a good listener is also very good, because when you really listen, something really interesting happens. We tend to have the inside chatter, which is normal to all of us. So somebody's talking to us, and many times we are already constructing what we are going to say next. But that actually stresses your brain a lot. The moment you really pay attention to what you're listening, right, not only it's going to be easier to find a solution because you give your brain breathing time, but you also can also see the frame that they are putting in the conversation, right? And either transform that or enroll into that to get to a positive outcome. So it's very important, especially in discussions. We always tend to give a lot of room for that internal voice, for what we are going to say, and we stop listening. We cause a disconnection, a cognitive disconnection, and then we don't get to any results. In customer service, that's very easy to happen if people are not well trained, because many times the person calling is already stressed, is already in fight or flight mode, right? So they're less receptive, and you have to be careful with what you say. And another I'm going to read before it disappears. Listen to understand, not to prep to what you want to say next. First understand, the you will be understood. First understand, then become understood, like Stephen Covey used to say. Exactly that. So when you are in a very stressful situation, for example, it is from good measure that you match your voice and the speed of your voice to that of the person calling you. Okay, if a person is extremely excited, is in anger, for example, speaking fast and loud, and you go very, very calm and slow, you're not going to help the situation. What you have to do is go where they are and bring them to where you want to be. So you slowly decrease the intensity of the voice and the rhythm of the voice, and bring them to where you want. There is really a lot about that we could talk about. But the topic for today was positive framing versus negative framing. I'm trying to figure out which is the best time to do the scopes to the audience that really is interested in this type of conversation, right? Either you're dealing with customers all the time, or you're an entrepreneur, you're a solopreneur thinking about it, right? So I'm trying different times. So, follow me so you do get the notification when I come online, and I hope to give you every day one tip on how you can create really a communication choreography around what you do so you get better results. And like I said, I focus mostly on the business side, but these things, they belong to the brain, so they can be used in any situation, including relationships. Okay, so if you like, follow me. I'll follow you back, and I hope to see you here tomorrow. Share this with your friends if you like, and let's discuss how we can, use our brain power, not only to retrain ourselves, but also to get better results in marketing. And if you see this slight accent, well, I forgot to say, I'm from Brazil. I live in Utah, but I'm from Brazil, so the accent gets in the way sometimes. So it really helps if you want to translate a little bit while I'm explaining that. I really appreciate that. With that said, I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoy.